She's not complicated. She's running a system. And the men who struggle with women their entire lives aren't struggling because women are unpredictable or irrational or impossible to understand. They're struggling because they never learned the operating principles underneath the behavior. They kept reacting to the surface, the hot and cold, the push and pull, the silence that comes out of nowhere, without ever asking what's actually generating it. There are 8 rules. 8 patterns embedded so deep in female psychology that they show up across every woman, every culture, every situation. Not because women are all the same person, but because human psychology follows structures, and once you understand the structure, the behavior stops looking like chaos. It starts looking like something you've seen before, something you finally know how to read. This isn't about manipulation, it's about comprehension. The difference between a man who understands women and a man who doesn't isn't that one of them has better lines, it's that one of them can see what's actually happening. Let's go through all 8. Rule 1. Every woman lives inside a permanent internal conflict, and that conflict is the engine behind almost everything she does. Most men look at a woman's behavior and see contradiction. She seems drawn to you, then she pulls back. She says one thing, does another. She appears warm one moment and cold the next, and the average man's response is frustration. He calls her confusing. He calls her inconsistent. He decides women are impossible to understand and stops trying. But what he's actually seeing isn't contradiction, it's tension. Inside every woman, 2 forces are running simultaneously. Desire, what she genuinely wants, what pulls her, what she's drawn to beneath the layer of social conditioning, and moral framework, how she believes she's supposed to want, how she thinks she's supposed to behave, what she's been taught is acceptable. These 2 forces are almost never perfectly aligned. They pull in opposite directions, and the behavior that results from that pull is what men mistake for randomness. She takes a step toward you, that's desire moving. She pulls back, that's her moral framework asserting itself. She goes quiet, that's the internal negotiation happening, not disinterest. The tension between what she craves and what she judges as acceptable isn't a flaw in her character, it's the foundation of the feminine psychological experience. When you understand this, you stop misreading the signals. You stop interpreting distance as rejection and closeness as certainty. You start seeing the whole picture, which is always more complex and more interesting than the surface suggests. Never judge the first action. Never trust only the first word. What she shows you on the outside is always a fraction of what's running on the inside. Rule 2. She will test you. Every time, without exception. Not because she's playing games, because she's running a survival calculation. Before any woman opens herself emotionally to a man, before she allows herself to genuinely attach, her psychology demands one piece of information above everything else. Can this man be trusted under pressure? Not can he say the right things. Can he hold his shape when something is pushing against it? So she applies pressure. Not always consciously, often the testing behavior is completely instinctive, built in, not learned. She challenges your position to see if you'll abandon it. She creates emotional friction to see how you manage it. She stirs jealousy to measure your stability. She goes quiet to see if you'll collapse into anxiety or hold your ground. Most men fail this completely. They either escalate emotionally, which reads as instability, or they fold, adjusting their behavior to reduce her discomfort, which reads as weakness. Both responses give her the same information. This man cannot be relied on when things get difficult. The man who passes isn't the man who performs calm. He's the man who is genuinely unbothered, who doesn't get pulled into her emotional weather, who responds from his own center rather than reacting to her signals, who remains the same man regardless of what she throws at him. That steadiness is what she's looking for, not perfection, not dominance, consistency, the feeling that this man will still be standing when the storm clears. Rule 3 is the one that destroys more relationships than almost anything else on this list. When a woman falls in love, really falls, she gets scared. This goes against everything men expect. The assumption is that deeper feelings mean more openness, more closeness, more warmth. But for many women, it works in the opposite direction. The deeper the feeling, the higher the stakes, and the higher the stakes, the louder the old fears get. Every woman carries wounds from her past: loss, rejection, moments when she gave something real and it was not returned or not protected. These experiences don't disappear when she grows up. They transform into reflexes, into self-protective behaviors that activate automatically when something starts to matter too much. So she pulls back, she creates distance, she goes cold for 2 days. She seems to retreat from the very connection she was building. And the man who doesn't understand this interprets it as a loss of interest. So he chases, he pushes, he tries harder. And that pressure, that need, confirms her fear. She closes further. The man who understands her psychology does the opposite. He stays stable. He doesn't chase, he doesn't punish her distance with his own. He simply continues to be himself, present and rooted, without making her withdrawal into a crisis. And she comes back, because she looked back and saw him still standing, still steady, still the same. And that is the exact proof her fear was demanding, that this person will not leave just because she got scared. Love for a woman is not a straight line. It moves in circles of closeness and withdrawal. The man who understands the rhythm doesn't get thrown by it. He holds the center while she moves around it. Rule 4. She doesn't just want peace from you. She wants to feel your presence. There's a version of a man that women describe as what they want: gentle, understanding, accommodating, endlessly patient. And in some respects, that's true. But it's not the complete truth, because if that's all there is, something in her eventually goes quiet. Not dramatic, just a slow fading of the thing that felt electric at the beginning. What activates the deeper layers of female attraction isn't gentleness alone. It's the combination of warmth and weight, softness backed by something solid. A man who is kind because he chooses to be, not because he's afraid of what happens if he isn't. Presence is what she actually responds to. A man who is genuinely here, whose attention doesn't fragment, whose opinion doesn't shift under pressure, whose energy fills a room, not because he's performing it, but because he's actually in it. A man who speaks from conviction, who holds eye contact not to prove something, but because he's already comfortable. She'll often say she wants a gentle man, and she does, but she wants a gentle man with a spine underneath the gentleness. Without that spine, gentleness starts to feel like absence, like something with no resistance, no shape, nothing to actually hold on to. Presence isn't aggression, it isn't dominance in the way that word is usually misused. It's simply being genuinely, fully here, with yourself, with her, in the moment, without performing it. That quality is rare enough that she notices it immediately when it's there, and she notices its absence even faster. Rule 5 reaches further back than most men ever think to look. The way a woman behaves with men, what she's drawn to, what she fears, what she repeats without realizing she's repeating it, was largely shaped before she ever met you. It was shaped by the first relationships she watched and experienced, her parents, her early environments, the moments that told her whether love was safe or dangerous, reliable or conditional. The father relationship in particular leaves a deep imprint. His presence or absence, his warmth or his distance, whether he made her feel protected or uncertain. That experience becomes a template, not a rigid rule, but a gravitational pull. The kind of man she moves toward and the kind she runs from is often a response to that early map. Her mother shapes something different, the model of femininity she absorbed, the first mirror of self-worth and acceptance she encountered, the emotional language she learned before she had the vocabulary to name it. None of this means her psychology is broken or that she's trapped by her past. It means that some of what looks like mysterious or contradictory behavior has a root that goes much deeper than the current moment. The woman who seems to create distance just as things get close isn't being irrational. She's replaying a pattern that once made sense, that once protected her from something real. The man who understands this stops judging the behavior and starts seeing the wound underneath it. He doesn't exploit it. He doesn't use it as leverage. He simply holds enough space for it to be there without being destabilized by it. And that quality, a man who can be trusted with her real self, not just the presented version, is the thing she's been looking for the longest. Rule 6. Her words are often not the message. Her signals are. This isn't a cynical observation. It's a structural fact about how human beings communicate, especially in emotional contexts, especially when what they feel conflicts with what they believe they're supposed to feel. A woman will tell you she's fine when her body is broadcasting something completely different. She'll say she wants stability while consistently being drawn to men who destabilize her. She'll describe what she's looking for in a partner in terms that have very little to do with who actually makes her feel something real. Because the words are what she's worked out consciously, what she believes, what she's been told, what makes logical sense to her. The signals are what her actual psychology is doing underneath all of that. The look that lingers slightly longer than it needs to, the silence that's comfortable rather than awkward, the way she angles her body in a room, the small things she references twice in a conversation. These aren't things she's performing, they're things that leak through, and they're far more honest than most of what she'll say directly. The man who reads only words misses most of what's actually being communicated. The man who reads the signals is always one step ahead, not because he's manipulating, but because he's actually paying attention. He's listening to the whole message, not just the layer of it that arrived as language. Don't rely exclusively on what she tells you. Watch what she does, where her attention goes, what she returns to. Only there will you find the unfiltered version of what she actually feels.
Rule 7. Mystery is not a technique. It's a consequence of having a real interior life. Women don't become obsessed with men who are withholding information. They become obsessed with men who seem to have more going on than they've revealed, and who don't feel the need to reveal it all just because someone's interested. The man who over-explains is broadcasting insecurity. The man who tells her everything immediately is handing her the ending before she's invested in the story. And what she's biologically inclined toward is not the full disclosure, it's the sense that there's more to discover, that the person in front of her hasn't been fully mapped yet. This isn't a game you play, it's a natural result of being genuinely engaged in your own life. A man who has things he cares about, goals he's moving toward, a world that exists independently of whether she's in it. That man has mystery by default, not because he's strategically withholding, but because he isn't organized around getting her attention. His life has its own direction. When she has to work slightly for your attention, not because you're playing hard to get, but because your attention is genuinely occupied with things that matter to you, the attention she does receive means something. It has weight. She knows you weren't just distributing it to whoever asked. The cure for feeling like you have no mystery isn't learning to be more withholding, it's building a life interesting enough that you genuinely have things going on that aren't about her. Rule 8. The final rule is also the most important one. Everything on this list, understanding her internal conflict, holding steady under her tests, giving her space when she withdraws, projecting genuine presence, reading her signals accurately, none of it is accessible to a man who hasn't first understood himself. A man who doesn't know his own patterns will keep getting pulled into hers. A man who hasn't resolved his own fears will read her withdrawal as abandonment. A man who hasn't built his own identity will reshape himself around whoever he's with. A man who needs external validation will chase it from her, and that chase will cost him everything this list is trying to give him. The deepest truth in all of female psychology is this: the qualities that make a man genuinely attractive to a woman are the exact same qualities that make a man genuinely functional as a human being. Stability, self-knowledge, an inner life that doesn't depend on her response, standards that don't dissolve under pressure, a sense of purpose that exists independently of whether she's impressed by it. You cannot fake your way into having those things. You can only build them. And the process of building them isn't primarily about women at all. It's about you, who you're becoming, how you manage yourself, what you're constructing in the time she's not watching. When you've done that work, the rest of this list stops being a set of tactics and becomes a natural description of how you already move through the world. The real conflict was never with her. It was always inside you. And the man who resolves that conflict not just understands women better, he becomes someone worth understanding. Dark male code.